Here's a chart with every longest punt return from 1950 to today. Most of these punts are in a range from 92 to 100 yards, which makes sense because not too many punts go that far, and it's very rare to see a return from that far back. But this one punt is all alone, far above anyone in reach. It's in its own little universe, and yet it only involved one guy who did it in one attempt. How did this happen? The guy who did this punt return is Robert Bailey. I looked through his profile and found out that his career was very weird. In the span of 10 years, starting in 1991, he played for the Rams, then a few years later going to the Redskins, then in the same year moving to the Cowboys, then next year he went to the Dolphins, and the year after that he went to the Lions, then after that he went to the Ravens, and went back to the Lions again, only to suffer a boating accident which ended his career. Now that we have that out of the way, we can analyze this play. The reason that this happened is one of the weirdest and dumbest plays in the history of football. The Rams and Saints are at 4th and 2 with 4 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. Tommy Barnhart, the Saints punter, punts 42 yards. They have a 10-point lead, so this isn't much of an issue, and most likely the Rams won't have enough time to make a play. The ball bounces into the end zone and then bounces again. Everyone thinks it's going to leave the end zone, but the ball bounces backwards. At this moment, Robert Bailey, during his only punt return of his entire career, notices this, takes the ball, and runs it all the way back for the weirdest touchdown I have ever seen.
End zone. I think the way the returns have been going in this game, I'd just assume, wait a minute, what's going on out here? They down the ball. This is going to be a touchdown.
Even the newspapers are in complete shock, calling it one of the weirdest plays of the game in the entire season. However, looking through the game, I found something incredible. Going back to the kickoff returns, only 0.27% of kickoffs are returned for touchdowns. But we need to meet someone important. Tyrone Hughes is a one-of-a-kind defensive player. During this game, he managed a fumble recovery touchdown as well as 2 kickoff return touchdowns. These 3 plays plus the punt return count for more than double the amount of yards in all other plays in that game. This chart describes the longest interception returns of every year since 1946. Starting in the 1950s, they were pretty rare and barely happened. They almost never happened in the early 70s, and then they exploded. After that, they stayed at the top and been on the rise ever since. However, in the 2000s, there were 2 interception returns. Out of everything else, there was nearly nothing that can compete with it. How did this happen? Ed Reed is one of those football players that you hear about once in a while, but when you do, it amazes you. And Ed Reed is responsible for a 108-yard interception return touchdown. It happened on November 23, 2008 against the Philadelphia Eagles. There were a few incidents that happened during this run. Kevin Kolb threw the ball and got intercepted by Ed. After he picked the ball and ran down the line, Kevin Kolb, who just threw the pick, decided to try and block him. But since Ed is a beast, he ran right past him. Kevin Kolb was a weird quarterback, but the weirdest thing is that he was later arrested for boating while intoxicated. Sounds familiar. After that, Brian Westbrook and Todd Harrimans tried to stop him, and both failed. After that, he was gone, and in the span of 15 seconds made a mockery of the entire Philadelphia Eagles defense. It's truly amazing to see this much skill with a single person. Ed Reed has the longest interception return touchdown, but there's 2 outliers. Who has the second? Well... Jeff Garcia attempted to pass, but it bounced off a player, and right before it landed on the ground, Ed Reed scooped it up. And at that moment, everyone knew it was over. In the span of 14 seconds, he made an absolute mockery of the Cleveland Browns defense. The reason that these little gaps in the line are present are because Ed Reed at this point nonchalantly started jump walking into the end zone. Since 1940, this is every interception return yardage leader. Clearly it makes sense that Ed is at the top since this is his domain, but at the same time, no one else has even made it to 1,500. It's astonishing how amazing he is. It was obvious he would make the Hall of Fame. He has over 9 Pro Bowls in his career, which is crazy since most NFL players haven't even been to one. Ed Reader later said to the young people, "To the young, work, 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 and work some more." It's nothing short of saying that he will live on as one of the greatest football players of all time. This is an image of John Madden and Jack Tatum discussing something. Whatever they were discussing led to this newspaper article, calling it a question mark day at Lambeau Field. Let's step back for just 1 second. Here's every fumble return touchdown career leader. Most people on this chart have 2 or 3 fumble return touchdowns. Fumbles don't happen that very often, so it makes sense that it would be rare for it to happen. Most of the people who have 2 or 3 aren't even the defensive players you would think would get these. Some of them are safeties far away from the play. We could talk about Jason Taylor, who's the only person in the NFL with 6 of them, but the one that I want to talk about is Jack Tatum. Here is Jack Tatum's fumble return yards for every fumble return he's ever done. Most of these range from losing a few yards to a 26-yard return. Other than that, though, no other play has been that far. Until... This blue circle is kind of funny to admire. It represents how dumb and weird the NFL is. During this 1972 Lambeau Field game, the Packers have it at the Raiders' 4-yard line. The Packers' Scott Hunter attempted a lateral trick play to MacArthur Lane, but Lane bobbled the ball and landed to the end zone. At that moment, Raiders 3rd and 1, Jack Tatum takes the ball and just runs it.
And raced 104 yards to break the record for fumble returns, which was held by Chicago Bears owner George Halas, and which had lasted for 49 years.
Every career fumble return yards leader is shown here. Again, we could talk about D'Angelo Hall with 328 return yards, but even though Jack Tatum is all the way down here, it doesn't matter. This one play counted for nearly 2/3 of all yards he had that game. It's amazing. Let's say it's November 4th, 2007. You're Minnesota Vikings kicker Ryan Longwell. You attempt a field goal. Your kick isn't going to make it, but it's a really good kick. You're winning the game, so there's that. The ball's going to fall in the end zone anyway, so there's no worry. Everything is going according to plan. This is Antonio Cromartie. He is the guy who did the kick 6 and is also responsible for 5 other kick 6s in his entire career, all above 104 yards. This guy is the true king of long touchdowns. It's amazing to see these people achieving incredible things, even if it's on accident or plain luck. These plays are what I live for in the NFL. It's the funniest and weirdest plays that make so many people happy. It doesn't matter how you play football, anything can happen. It only matters when it's going to happen. Isn't that the thing we've always wanted?